So I'm really interested in your writing, Joe, because you're really displaying advanced learning here. And I say that because you're in the process of learning a lot through trial and error, and you're saying about how to best organize my file. So in this week, really, we talked about organization of files, right? And then we also talked about being unique and being different. So for you to kind of take this approach of the kind of underlying theme of the week and work on what's being presented there. So in other words, we talk about being an organized designer. So you're working on organizing your work by some of the techniques that you've described here, clipping masks, etc. So I think that's a really super interesting approach. And I think that one that I think definitely, as I said before, it points to advanced learning. And that's a really, really interesting thing to see. And I for one, I love it. I think it's fantastic. That said, I think we're underdeveloped here. So basically, we have one perspective here, and so we're basically saying the same scene, 12 times, but with the only difference being this level of zoom and the location of the fly. So I think we have a lot of work to do here. Now there's a couple of things that, and I don't mean that in a discouraging way at all, Joseph. You know me by now, right? So I'm trying to be nurturing as opposed to being discouraging. So I think at this point you're gonna run into some issues, and I think some of the issues you're gonna run into if you continue in this vein is that you're gonna probably run into issues colorizing the individual frames. And the reason I say that is because right now it seems like you're using a tablet to just establish these kind of really kind of informal contour lines to create the shape of the main character. But sometimes you just got to break down and go back to traditional pen tool, or at least when you're using a tablet or this technique, keep color in mind, because right now I'm anticipating some issues applying color to this. Let me give you an example. And to give you that example, I've got your PDF up and I want to zoom in. So what I'm going to do is well, actually, I don't have to. See the head area right there? See, that's not a closed path. Uh, how are you going to apply color here and deal with that area that's an open path? Do you see what I'm saying? And these are just little bits of things that you'll train yourself to look at as an illustrator to determine how this is going to progress. Okay. Another comment I have is I'm not crazy about the left to right, top to bottom flow. I think it's too rigid. I think following the music staff is a good idea, but again, it just adds this rigidity where each frame is squared off, geometric, and just really doesn't seem to have a really solid relationship with the frame before or after it, other than the fact that they fall in line chronologically. I think you can get this really cool, super organic relationship between the frames and the narrative by creating shapes, either placing the illustrations in shapes or creating the illustration and placing shapes behind the illustration. That's a cool technique. That's the one we saw in the examples. Remember the examples with the lumberjack with a red beard? Okay, the other example with the hornet's nest, the fire poker for the hornet's nest, that one's got a really cool technique where that designer shows the illustration and then puts shapes behind the illustration. So the shapes tend to tie the illustrations together, but it creates this really kind of cool infinite depth we will never see in this kind of configuration, this kind of rigid geometric frame, next frame, next frame, next frame, next line, next frame. Just see what I'm saying? Let me show you an example. Here's this is Brittany's example, and I think this really shows this kind of really cool organic relationship that each frame has with each other and with the overall picture plane itself, right? And then you can't mistake the flow. The flow, you're being led through by the connection of these vines that are associated with the main topic, right? So I think that's a really interesting way to go. I think that you could do that by using little music notes to connect the different frames, think about something other than a square, and just take what I'm saying, food for thought. None of what I'm saying is required. Okay, this is your assignment. I'm not trying to art direct it. I've got enough experience with this assignment through teaching it through multiple classes that I have a really good idea of what works. And in the end game, what works. And to me, the end game is this, and you've heard me say this before, Joe. To me, the end game is not, hey, that's a cool illustration. To me, the end game is, how is this illustration going to work in this student's portfolio when that time comes? That's what I'm shooting for. That's what my target is always student portfolio when I critique work. So I'm looking for the most bang for your buck in that student portfolio presentation. So again, these are recommendations, not requirements. So you art direct your own project. At the end of the day, it's your art project. I don't want to tell you what to do. I just want to give you, basically, as I said before, food for thought, right? Okay. All right, Joseph. So first, actually, again, I just want to commend you for this. Learning as you're going and really trying to grasp the underlying concept of the theme presented in each week in conjunction in addition to the actual tasks, the illustrative tasks. So keep that up, man. That's good stuff. I love it. All right, thanks, Joe. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Now we are due Sunday, so it's we're coming down to it. So again, any questions, comments, concerns? I'm right here. Thanks, man.